Thank you for waking us all up out here.
For all you do. And
thank you for giving us a voice.
For being out there helping to keep the constitutional republic.
I want to thank you for
your support for veterans in the military.
Educating us.
Standing up for conservatism.
Giving us the truth.
Daybreak with Drew Steele.
All right, just a reminder, coming up tomorrow, we will be broadcasting live from Mercola Market, just west of Hancock Bridge Parkway. Off Pine Island Road. Come join us 6 to 9 a.m. Grab some coffee. Soul Spring Cafe will be in the cafe. Grab some coffee and some breakfast and hang out. It's always a great time. Mercola Market in Cape Coral. And there's a lot going on over the weekend as well, so we'll get to some of those details. Let's go some of the latest details out of what's happening on Capitol Hill. Congressman Byron Donalds joining us on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. First of all, good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Drew. How are you?
I'm well. I'm wondering, before we get into some of the discussions about the speaker's race and some other things that are popping up on Capitol Hill, what it was like yesterday, people there in the rotunda and some of the areas, what it was like, the concerns about how when you have protesters inside the Cannon Rotunda, and the Capitol Police telling people that you can't be in here, and then they're in there, and some of what was going on, and maybe thoughts on what was happening yesterday?
Look, obviously in our country, we believe in protests peacefully, and we believe that people are allowed to speak their mind. But witnessing, I didn't see them up close and personal, but witnessing, the House intersection essentially being taken over by a Palestinian pro-Hamas impromptu protest, to me is just ridiculous. First of all, I've never been one who says it's okay to shut down roadways. If you want to protest, do that in a park, do it on a sidewalk, but you don't get to just take over an intersection. I'm sorry. It's just not okay. Number two, to sit here and basically now say that Hamas is justified or that Israel needs to de-escalate, that's nuts. The Israelis were just going through their normal day. Obviously, their military and their security forces are always on alert. But they were just going through their normal day. It was Hamas that launched one of the most barbaric attacks on a nation that hasn't been seen, frankly, since 9/11. It was barbaric. So I don't want to hear, even though you're allowed to speak freely in our country, I don't want to hear about the Israelis. They must respond. They should respond. And they have my full support in whatever they need to do.
You hear some of the things, and then we'll move on, but I just wanted to ask this too. You have some representatives who have said some things yesterday during these protests outside of the Capitol that seem to be pretty fiery rhetoric. As a matter of fact, some of the things that I'll just say Rashida Tlaib said, and then after saying it, having the protesters go into the building, some of what she said could be considered inciting a riot, could be considered a lot of different things. The way she was speaking about the government and the president and the White House, and everyone thinks that we're going to sit back and let this continue to happen. No, and then moments later, they occupy the building there on Capitol Hill. Some of the things we've seen and heard about with regard to other protests happening in our history, and you know what I'm talking about, and and then parroting what is the media talking about the hospital and the blowing up of the hospital and 500 plus people dying and all, and continuing to do this without any pushback. It feels like sometimes. And as people have been texting me all morning about this, it feels like some Republicans who just sit back and allow this all to happen and they don't say anything. And maybe your thoughts on some of the fiery rhetoric coming out of the left right now on the Capitol.
Well, let me talk about what Rashida. What she is saying is just ridiculous. It flies in the face of all reason. It flies in the face now of video evidence. We can clearly see that the hospital that was blown up, hundreds of people killed, that was Hamas's own doing with their rocket barrage. We all know this. Rashida Tlaib saw the video, but she goes out there with her propaganda anyway. I just thought Rashida Tlaib is no fan of Israel, never has been, never will be. The Democrats need to own that in their party. And frankly, I want Jewish voters throughout our entire country to see the actual face of the Democrat Party. It is Rashida Tlaib. It is Ilhan Omar. It is AOC. That's who they really are as a party. So they need to recognize that. I think, look, people going into the Capitol building, again, or going into the Cannon building, don't think that's a good idea. Think it's wrong to go in there. I know that a couple people are taking down some of the Israeli-supported poster boards and things in front of members' offices.
Well, it's not just that. It was also
a couple of those were taken down. There was more of that, yes.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. It was the protester that stopped official business from happening in the Senate. There was if you saw the video or heard, there was a committee.
Okay, so Drew, to that one, I have not actually seen that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you firsthand. This is the first I'm hearing about it talking to you.
Yeah.
That should be fully investigated.
Yep.
The same way they fully investigated, people, quote unquote, stopping official business on January 6th.
Yeah.
Both things are the same. You have to treat them the same. Now, this attorney, the U.S. attorney here in D.C., that dude is a hack, absolute political hack. Will they treat it the same? I'm not sure, but that's exactly how it should be treated. And the House needs the House, because frankly, the Sergeant at Arms does report to the Speaker of the House, of which we don't have one right now. But that needs to have a full investigation by the Sergeant at Arms, and there have to be criminal referrals made.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Congressman Byron Donalds joining us on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. All right, so let's get to it. I can't believe 2 failed attempts here, and now we move on. Your thoughts on what's happening with the vote and the Speaker of the House? I get frustrated because I hear about all about the unification of the party and how we have to get come together around, unify around someone, and it just keeps getting. It's always some kind of excuse from one member or another member, or the worrying behind the scenes of who's not going to get the appropriations that they want, or who's not going to get the money to Ukraine that they want, or who's not going to be able to make the case for this individual in their blue district, let's just say. All these different things that pop up. And the longer this goes on, the worse it will become, because certainly it'll be used against Republicans. But your thoughts on where we stand right now with the Speaker's vote?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying we're just log jammed right now. We're log jammed. I mean, it's that simple. There's just a lot of bad blood right now between a lot of different camps in the Republican conference, and unfortunately, it's paralyzing Capitol Hill. I still think we're going to get through it. I do. I think we're going to get through it. And even though the clock is ticking, we still have time to get our business accomplished.
Yeah.
Firmly believe that. I just think that the last couple of weeks up here, there's been, from the motion to vacate on down, there's been a lot of bad decision making by my colleagues. That people could say, "Oh, it was good to get rid of Kevin McCarthy." I didn't support the motion to vacate. Everybody back home knows I didn't support it.
Yeah.
There was a reason why I didn't support it. This is the reason why. And that's not as being a special pleader for Kevin McCarthy. There were things he did that I did not agree with. But there was an opportunity to try to get as many things done as possible and move our conference to a more conservative position. That was happening, even with Kevin McCarthy in his speakership.
Yeah.
Where we go from here? Somebody's got to get 217. It doesn't look like Jim Jordan can get there. Jim has my full support. I'm backing Jim. I'm not stepping away from backing Jim. He's our nominee. I was talking to a handful of members yesterday, just trying to get them to get into a new space. But one of the things, Drew, that that has really hurt the situation is, some of the outside groups. There was a member's wife who was contacted about it, and I think the member's wife was threatened. So obviously he's upset. And, I think some people are like, well, you guys work for us, so everything's fair game. I said, listen, people in Southwest Florida, let me just be honest with you. If you want to be tough with me, be tough with me. My wife, my kids, no. It's just, I'm a man first. It's just not going to work.
So was that the?
And so I think some of that has happened, and it's really poisoned the well.
So if I can bring that up, was that Mike Simpson? Was that is that because I know that Mike Simpson was talking about it. Okay, because there was a Congressman, Mike Simpson from Idaho, who was talking about intimidation and threatening tactics don't work and they will not work. Steve Scalise earned his vote, and the projection there was, hey, don't call my office, don't tell us what to do, because I'm supporting Scalise, which was kind of humorous because Scalise was voting for Jim Jordan, which was really weird. It's a weird position to take, but that whole idea of, look, you do have constituents who will make the phone calls who care, and look, and there are even people in the state who have said no about Jim Jordan, and people have questioned why they're doing that. And so it's certainly the phone calls shouldn't be threatening, but they should be, listen, this is what I'm concerned about, and I would hope that you would side with us, your constituents, in voting this way. And so I just saw that. So forgive me for interrupting you, but I just wanted to make a point.
No, you're good.
It wasn't him. Okay.
I mean, I think that, people calling the offices to, let their voices be heard, of course they should do that. That's what our process is.
Yeah.
You have to speak, if constituents speak to their member of Congress, let their voices be heard. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's totally fine. I think that what is starting to rub some members wrong is I know of 2 members who've had death threats. People have called their offices or contacted them. Yeah. I am not saying that, and let me be very clear, Jim has not authorized that. He's not. Jim Jordan is not authorizing any of that. But that stuff has occurred.
Yeah.
Members of Congress, they're human beings like anybody else. We just have a different responsibility. My hope is that the members have cool heads. They don't get emotional about this stuff, right, and they just go and make the best decision possible. But it's just not in a good space right now, Drew. I'll just tell you what it is and what it's not.
Yeah.
The members are not in a good space right now. I was hoping that people could kind of get past this. It just hasn't happened. I think there are some members who are still not totally happy with a lot of the behind-the-scenes maneuvers that were pulled with Steve Scalise. You mentioned Mike Simpson. There was some dirty pool that happened with Steve Scalise. There are members who they're fed up and they're not going to tolerate that either. And then, you still have a handful of members, some of my colleagues in Florida who are still upset with how Kevin McCarthy was vacated. And their position is, I'm not going to sit here and basically be ruled from just a small faction of the House majority.
Yeah.
And they're members of Congress. They have that ability to make that decision. And I think that sometimes when you say we want it to be a member-driven process, you want everybody to speak their word and have their say, that cuts both ways. And everybody needs to understand that. It's either you have a top-down approach or everybody speaks their mind. And right now, every member is doing what they want to do. The House leadership has very little control over what the members are doing at this point.
Yeah.
And so that's why you still see a situation where there's no agreement on Jim Jordan to become Speaker of the House.
Yeah, you could see that where there are certain individuals who just don't want to let it go. They're upset with what Matt Gaetz did. They're upset about how McCarthy was vacated. They're upset about Scalise, certain thing, and they're just going to stand their ground and stay there in that space. And just and they won't budge, they won't move, which is an interesting position to take, considering that's what you should be doing against Democrats. That's the position that you should be taking every time there's some kind of crazy spending or something that is going to be a detriment to the American people. Boy, I wish you would be so bold as to go against Democrats the same way you seem to go against Republicans, people in your own party. Boy, that guy.
So look, actually, you raised a good point. Let me address.
I raise
that.
a great point, Congressman. It's a great point.
You raise a great point.
Go ahead.
I think that for a long time in the Republican conference, everything has just been, what does the leadership say we are doing? You just go along with the leadership and you do it. You have a handful of members, typically Freedom Caucus members, who would bucket, go say no, would go be against the position, whatever. I think that what's happening now is because you have members who are on the, they're on the more moderate side of our conference. They typically will, follow what leadership is doing. Now that they are the ones kind of blocking leadership, I think this is actually helpful down the line, because now these members are seeing that, wow, I can just say no to something and not really be heard a lot. And I think that if we can focus that mindset into the battles to come with the Democrats, it'll actually make for a stronger party.
Like shutting down governments and CRs, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll make for a stronger party, but it has to be focused in the right way, and that's where leadership does come into play. Yeah. I think if it's focused right, you have members. Listen, I talked to 2 members yesterday, and they just weren't changing their position. And they were basically like, wow, voting against the speaker designee, this ain't so bad. That's what they said to me. And I was just like, well, in a moment of jest, I was like, welcome to the party, pal. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I know what that's like. But I think for a lot of members who came to D.C. with the mindset of, I gotta, when the leadership says this, we got to be a team, we got to be on one accord, and all that kind of mindset. I think they're starting to understand that the old ways of the House of Representatives, those days are over.
Yeah,
nothing is going to happen by acclamation. Nothing is going to happen just because the leadership said. I think all of that the entire curtain of that has been ripped off in this Congress. Is it messy? Yeah, it's really messy. Do I think it's in the best interest of the institution going forward? I 100% think it's in the best interest of this institution going forward, because the members need to represent their districts, not represent what leadership is telling them, not representing what the upper echelons of the party is telling them. They need to represent what their people back home are saying. And I think that actually will lead us to a better situation to govern, to fight hard against crazy Democrat policy, and to help get this country back on track.
Yeah. Quickly, 30 seconds. Where do you think we go from here?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not even predicting anymore, Drew.
Okay.
I want Jim to be speaker. My hope is Jim becomes speaker. Yeah. I think we should be on the floor for multiple votes today.
Yeah.
But I just have no idea what's going to happen next.
Okay, fair enough. Congressman Byron Donald is joining us on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. All right, sir. I appreciate you. All the best. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you, Drew.
Okay, see you.